So today we are having a very first episode of our webcast series at Dynamic Square. Um, a very special collaboration between Dynamic Square and Insight Works. Welcoming our first guest, Mark Hamblin from Insight Works. Welcome. And
Thank you.
Nitesh, head of BD at Dynamic Square. And
Thank you,
me,
Amisha.
Ramata, as a host today to this webcast. So, today we are diving into warehouse management in Business Central and how businesses can streamline operations with barcoding and mobile solutions. So, let's deep dive in today. And before we start, let's start with an introduction. Mark, would you like to tell us something about yourself, your role at Insight Works?
Absolutely. Yeah, and thanks. I'm honored to be here for this first webcast here. Yeah, I've been with InsightWorks since the beginning, and InsightWorks has been around for a little over 10 years as InsightWorks, and I act as the solution advisor. So I help people determine whether our solutions will be a good fit for their environment or not.
That's superb. And for our new listeners, Nitesh, would you like to introduce yourself as well, please?
Absolutely, Amita. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mark, for joining in on this session. I'm Nitesh, and I'm the head of BD at Dynamic Square. And my main role is to help companies streamline and scale their back office operations through Dynamics 365 solutions and along with the help of InsightWorks team, specifically around the warehouse operations. I've been with the company for almost 8 years now, and really looking forward to the session today, speaking with Mark and Amita. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So before we deep dive in, let's start with a very basic question. Mark, so tell us something about the Insight software. We
Oh,
could just start with that.
yeah. So InsightWorks, we've got a wide range of solutions, and warehouse management is what we're often known for. But we deal with warehouse management, and with shipping, manufacturing. So we've got a lot of good manufacturing tools as well. I know that today the focus is on the warehouse management, but yeah, and on the warehouse management side, I mean, we've got tens of thousands of people using it on a daily basis. It's nicely integrated into Business Central, and it's really fairly easy to get up and running. So pretty comprehensive solution for Business Central when it gets to
Hmm.
warehouse management.
Okay. So, even at today's time, Mark, many warehouse management businesses still rely and are dependent on basically the struggle on spreadsheets and paper-based tracking, which of course leads to errors and delays. So, Mark, why do you think businesses struggle with warehouse management despite so many digital tools available in the market at today's time?
Yeah, I think there's lots of reasons. One of the main ones is, of course, they're not using Business Central, and so they're using systems that really just don't support their operations. Maybe they've grown fairly significantly, especially over the last few years, where there's a lot more, e-commerce online, and they've kind of haven't kept up with the growth, right? So they're stuck on the paper-based or Excel-based solutions, which really just don't, meet their requirements anymore. Maybe when they're much smaller, they could manage that, but they've kind of grown out of those systems. So really, and it's a bit of education as well. They may not know what's out there that could actually help them, solve those problems that they're having on their paper-based systems.
So, how does Business Central deal with that or cope with that in that case?
Yeah, so I mean, Business Central really takes, like even if you're using Excel or paper-based systems, Business Central really has a nice comprehensive inventory management solution. And then we layer on top of that to provide, more of the warehouse specific functionality. So going with Business Central, of course, is going to get you all that core capability within Business Central that gets you your inventory management and, a lot of the warehouse definition. And then when we come in, we can sort of layer our solutions on top of that. And again, fairly easy to implement as well. So it's not like the olden days where, a warehouse management solution where you need to do barcoding and buy handheld scanners was hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's very affordable nowadays. We even have free
Hmm.
solutions as well.
That's great, actually. Business Central is a savior for so many businesses, right? So, Nitesh, coming to you, I know you have worked with clients facing similar warehouse challenges. Would you say, are they facing the same kind of pain points you often see before implementing?
Yeah, absolutely, Amita. So that is, that is quite common in companies. A lot of these companies, they do are aware of the fact that there is a lack of visibility in terms of their real-time inventory, stock counts, what's coming in, what's going out. People in the warehouse moving across different bins just to get the right item to ship. And they do know all this stuff, but they don't know the cost behind it, that what exactly it is costing to the business to not to streamline and automate these back office operations. And this is where solution from Insight Works really helps to streamline all that, and that's what we have been doing with them. And also in terms of the what's my inventory holding cost? As a business, I should know, I should be aware of that, and that's how I can better predict my margins, better predict my revenue, and those kind of scenarios. So and then also it comes down to the fact that when we do the discovery, we really go in detail and discussing about all the challenges in detail. And
Hmm.
with our team and with the likes of Insight Works team that really make sure that we go deep in their pain points, really understand their challenges, and then come up with a plan which can then help them streamline their warehouse operations there.
So let's talk about barcoding and mobility. And I want to say that barcoding isn't just about faster scanning. It's basically about it plays a major or a vital role in improving minimizing errors, right? And inventory accuracy as well. So I want to know, like, what does barcoding play in modern warehouse management?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that that's really the key. You mentioned, it's more than just data collection. It's improving accuracy and things like that. So one of the biggest advantages of going with the barcoding solution isn't necessarily, improved speed or anything like that. People picking on paper can be very fast, often
Hmm.
faster than barcoding. What you get with barcoding is really you get to verify what you're doing. So what you're physically doing now gets verified in your business system in Business Central. And that's key because now I know exactly that I know that I've taken exactly the right product. I'm not
Exactly.
picking the wrong product. I'm not shipping the wrong product. My inventory is going to be far more accurate, all of those sorts of things. So that physical verification with barcoding is one of the key advantages of it, right? Even better than some of the other technologies like RFID and things like that, which have their place. We support that as well. But that being able to pick up a package and scan it, or look at a package and scan it and verify that is exactly what I'm dealing with, is one of the key points in barcoding. Right, keeps your physical world and your virtual world in sync.
Yeah, correct. So, it's one thing to have data in the system, but when your team can access and update it on the spot, like right in the middle of the warehouse, that's when things really start running faster and smarter. So, in the impression of this, I want to ask you, Mark, that how does real-time mobile access impact the warehouse operation?
Yeah, so it's again somewhat like what you mentioned. That everybody's got that electronic data in their system, whether it's an Excel or Business Central or whatever. But if it's not timely and it's not accurate, it's not helping you, right? That could be a competitive advantage to have um, that data in your system, like what's my inventory levels, those sorts of things. But again, if it's not timely and if it's not accurate, it's not going to help you. A customer can phone up and say, do you have this in stock? Can you ship it today? You look in the system and say, no, I can't. When in fact, you've got product in the warehouse. Maybe it was just received, or maybe it was counted wrong or something like that. So if that data isn't accurate, it's not really helping you at all. And that's what the
Hmm.
barcoding allows you to do, right? So the first part we mentioned earlier is the accuracy. We're ensuring that we've got accuracy with our data. The second part is that timeliness, right? When you're using the mobile devices, everything is real time. I know that 2 minutes ago I received a bunch of product I can now ship out, or that I just shipped some product that's no longer available and I shouldn't be promising it to people. So yes, that timeliness and accuracy of the data is key, and that's really what barcoding and the mobile devices gets you.
That's beautiful, actually. But I'm kind of intrigued to get an example from you right now. Can you share some examples regarding that now?
Yeah, so I mean, we see it all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So things like accuracy, mispicks and misshipments, right? The last thing you want to do if you're in a high volume environment is ship the wrong product. Again,
Mm.
that accuracy of being able to physically scan that item to ensure you're not actually shipping the wrong product is very important. And the previous one I mentioned is exactly that. You know, you see that reasonably often, people saying, yes, we have that in stock, we'll ship it out, or we don't have any in stock when in fact, it was just received, or, it was just shipped, and we don't, the inventory levels in the system don't reflect reality because they weren't doing real-time scanning. So yeah, those are the types of things, the benefits that you will see when you go to sort of a mobile barcoding solution.
So, coming to you, Nitesh, when businesses come to us at Dynamic Square, how aware are they of these technologies? Like, do they often realize the value upfront, or is it something we need to educate them upon? What are your
Uh,
insights on that?
Definitely, the education and the insight really helps in this, Ramita. So what happens is that, as I said, company, they are aware about the challenges that they are facing internally. It's just
Yeah.
that at times they need that consulting, they need that advice from a third party to
Hmm.
really, be straightforward to them and really help them understand that this is what they're not doing, which other competitors are perhaps doing. Especially looking at how things are moving fast, especially in this AI first world. They know that they just cannot, keep going the way they are going.
Yeah.
Customer demands are increasing day by day. Lead time definitely becomes a critical part of this entire process. And then a lot of these businesses, they do import outside the country as well. So they also need that visibility in terms of when, at what time they are getting this item from a specific vendor, and at what time they need to ship to the customer, and this is where the set solutions from inside works really help. But they definitely are aware, but they don't know the cost behind what they're lacking, what they are, what they can actually do. But it's just that the I think sheer lack of execution, and also sometimes you need a nudge, from someone who can really ask tough questions, and that's what we do at Dynamic Square along with Insight Works to really help them understand that this is what they are lacking, and with both Business Central and Insight Works solution,
Mm-hmm.
they can certainly automate all that and scale their operations and eventually, achieve more and grow their revenue there.
Yeah. So, when you face this, right, they are ready to accept the potential of this application, and they are ready to evolve with this application as well. Do you see that change that after implementing and before implementing? Do you see the relief they get after and before the implementation?
Correct, Amita. So, and as I said, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes, weeks and months of helping them understand the configuration happens, training and testing happens, and then
Absolutely.
go live scenarios happens. Uh, it takes some time, but it's worth then just going around doing things manually, which as I Mark has just mentioned, and so yeah, I think that's it's more around asking tough questions and really helping them, you know, uh, make them aware that okay, this is what is available in the market, and if that would mean we showcasing the demo along with Insight Works team to really help them understand this is what the solution can do, uh, and then they see the the reality, and that and then from there on, things become much easier and simpler for them, especially in terms of warehouse operations. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So, Nitesh, over to you.
Thanks. So, Mark, I just want to understand from you in terms of, we talked about the back office operations, especially in the around warehouse. How does, Warehouse Insights manages multiple warehouse environment, companies that have got, multiple warehouses, and also if you could also give us a walkthrough about how the offline transition happens. Some thoughts around that will be helpful.
Sure. So, I mean, Warehouse Insight, operates, if you're familiar with the Business Central locations, each location is effectively a warehouse or a place where you can store inventory. And Warehouse Insight, typically, all the devices and everything are tied to a specific location. Uh, though in some environments we can, scan between locations and things like that, depending on what you need. So when we're talking about multi-warehouse environments, each one is somewhat isolated, right? So each physical warehouse is going to have its own set of scanners, its own configurations, its own processes, whatever they need to do in that particular warehouse, or even retail outlets. We have lots of customers that have, warehouse, and then they have stores that they ship to, and the stores will run Warehouse Insight as well. Obviously, they're not doing warehouse operations there, but they're able to have their specific devices configured through Business Central to do things that you'd want to do in a retail store, like maybe just inventory inquiry and maybe receiving and inventory counts, like the stock takes, those types of things. So works very well in a multi location environment where you have multiple warehouses, and each warehouse could be configured differently, those sorts of things. And again, in a typical warehouse environment, we'll handle all the warehouse processes, everything from deciding what you should pick today to generating the pick documents to picking and packing to shipping. All of those sorts of things are handled. And then on the inbound side, the receiving and the putaways and license plating and all those sorts of things that many warehouses require. So yeah, I think did that cover everything that you asked?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, it does, Mark. Now, I think you already mentioned about certain industries that really get broad benefit by adopting this solution. Are there specific scenarios or industries that benefit more than, let's say, other industries? And what are the use cases InsightWorks has got across these industries, please?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we support, like, we're a very broad set of capabilities within Warehouse Insight and its related modules. So Warehouse Insight, there's the core, which is the barcoding, the mobile access, everything else, and then there's additional modules you can add if you need them. So because of that flexibility where you can pick and choose what you want, we support a very wide range of industries. The ones that benefit most are the ones that are doing sort of the higher volume. Like if you're a low volume environment, we have the WMS Express tool, which is free, which is sort of a light version of Warehouse Insight that people can use in sort of those lower volume environments where they just need to do basic scanning. But anything where you're dealing with higher volumes, that's where Warehouse Insight is going to help, or larger products like high value or high volume, where you need that accuracy. You don't want to have product that's worth a fair amount of money and accidentally ship the wrong product or pick the wrong product. We work in consumer packaged goods, foods, almost any environment you could think of. We've likely got an implementation of Warehouse Insight in it.
Makes sense. And talking about the volume, are there specific numbers that you perhaps uh, specify internally that, okay, if a specific business is hitting these many numbers in terms of daily or weekly shipments or the kind of sales orders they're processing each month, Warehouse Insight is a better fit. You already have mentioned about Warehouse, the Express edition that you have got, which is more for the lighter user. So how do you differentiate that, and also does it include any sort of detailed discovery sessions at the client location to really understand the volume and based on that come up with your findings? So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. Now, we normally come in after that discovery is done, so it would be,
Hmm.
effectively you going in and determining, is there a use, is there some value in going with barcoding in
Absolutely.
there? Exactly. As you mentioned before, you go in and you ask those hard questions and you sort it out. Now, I don't think there's any specific, threshold for volume. You could be a
Hmm.
fairly low volume environment, but only, maybe uh, be able to have a single person in there. Well, for that person, they're busy all day. You want to give them the tools that are going to help them be efficient and accurate. And so we
Hmm.
have customers that run one or two devices because they need to be able to scan serial numbers. They don't want to type in serial numbers and things like that. Um, so almost any environment where you're going to see some, either efficiency savings or accuracy improvements, I think it's a good fit. So again, we have some customers out there running one or two devices all the way up to people running 100 or 150 devices within their operations. The high volume is an easy one. Like if you're doing 100 orders a day, well, you should be doing barcoding like that one, as a
Hmm.
rough threshold, that's fairly obvious. But you could be doing 10 orders a day, but each order is, high value or hard to pick, or, it has
Absolutely.
serial numbers and things like that, where again, it adds a ton of value.
Absolutely. I think you have mentioned quite well, Mark, in this. So yeah, it also comes down to, how businesses are ready to change, are ready to adopt to these technologies. And I think once they see the use case, the benefit, it becomes very easy for them to then adopt these and get the benefits. So I appreciate your thoughts on that. Now, Mark, in terms of let's say deploying your solution, obviously first and foremost is the configuration on top of which on Business Central would eventually happen. Uh, could you please give us a walkthrough in terms of how easy it is for a partner to implement your solution, how much time and days, man hours it takes, and what sort of support Insight Works gives to partners?
Absolutely.
And yeah, please.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, um, we don't do a lot of the core Business Central configuration. So normally when we come into a customer's environment, we want to be able to see that they understand, if they're using warehouse picks as an example, or inventory picks, or, they don't have bins enabled, or they do have bins enabled. We want to sort of come in after they've made some of those decisions on the warehouse. So we normally leave that up to the partner. Now we have very strong capabilities in the warehouse modules within Business Central. So our consultants can help with advising what might be possible, but we don't typically do that sort of core or base Business Central work where you're setting up bins
Absolutely.
and those sorts of things. Once all that's done, we come in and we have a few different models. We have a fixed price implementation, which is the most common. And for that, we'll come in, we'll review the configuration in Business Central, we'll configure Warehouse Insight or whatever tools are required. We'll help with the scanner provisioning and the setup. We'll do the training, we'll do the user acceptance testing support, and then the ongoing support is part of the subscription. So it makes it fairly easy from a partner perspective and a customer perspective to get in there. In a lot of cases, we'll provide the scanners as well. It's not required, but what that means is, InsightWorks will provide, sort of the hardware, the software, the services, everything that a customer needs to be successful with a project, right? And that's kind of important. It's not just that, okay, they're live and they're able to use it. We want
Yeah.
those people to be successful with Business Central and with the solution that they've chosen from us.
That makes sense, Mark. And in fact, a lot of these companies, they do have certain hesitations around in terms of which software they should pick, and what eventually they will get once they start using the application, and that is where post-go live support really plays a major role, because in the end, all they want is the assurance that if something doesn't work after the go live in the warehouse, and something just comes up, how quickly they can get the resolution of that specific, could be a bug, or could be a request from them. And if you could also, give your thoughts in terms of the support that they as a business can get from InsightWorks. I know that. Dynamic Square and other partners, you usually take the lead on that. But if let's say customer wants some help on a priority level, how does it work from inside works? And alongside, if you could also uh, mention about the licensing side,
Sure.
how does it work, and how easy for a customer to understand it and really get going with the help of Dynamic Square. So, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, and they are related because the licensing does include the product support as well. So 90, like a high percentage, over 90% of sort of any requests coming from the customer are covered under that subscription plan for the software. But the types of support we provide, we, as I mentioned, we understand Business Central very well, and we can help if there are problems there. But typically, our support is focused on our solutions. So as customers come in, whether they're using our free solutions or paid solutions, things like that, they can come in, they can contact us typically by email. That's generally easiest, unless it's something urgent, and then they can call us. And then we'll jump on there. We can get remote access to the devices, remote access to their environment, and we can help sort out whatever issues they're having. If they have a requirement, custom requirement, they want to tailor the software to work the way they work, which is a bit of a side note, but is very important, right? We provide the tools that allow them to change the way the software works to match their best practices versus having to change the way they work to match what the software does. So as part of that, they could come in to us and ask if we can do a modification, or in a lot of cases our modifications don't require coding, they're more configuration. We have an app designer in the product and things, but they can come to us for customizations, they can come to us for product support, any issues they're having, and we'll help them out that way. And as I mentioned, pretty much everything is covered under that subscription license, except for development. And if they need training on Business Central or any of the core Business Central things, we tend to avoid. And then as far as licensing goes, I mentioned earlier we have several modules. The core one is Warehouse Insight when it comes to warehousing, but we have fulfillment tools, we have shipping, we have advanced stock take tools. The manufacturing tools, quality inspections, maintenance, like asset maintenance, all of those things you can add on if you decide you need them. But the core Warehouse Insight is licensed by device. So if you have 10 devices in your environment, you would buy potentially 10 device licenses from us. Now, I say potentially because those device licenses are concurrent from us, which means if I have 10 devices in my warehouse, but really only 5 are ever used at a given time, you would actually only need 5 device licenses from us. And as long as only 5 devices were used at the same time, you could have 50 devices in the warehouse that are all licensed for Warehouse Insight. You could only use 5, as long as you're only using 5 at a time. So that concurrent licensing can save a lot of money because, yes, you might have 10 people there, but really only 5 ever work simultaneously. You don't have to buy licenses for each of those devices or people.
And that's a pretty interesting point that you have mentioned, Mark, because in this age of subscription-based model for almost every solution out there, I think concurrent licensing, which was quite common in Navision days, is you're still doing that. So I think that really helps a lot of companies to save costs, especially around warehouse when as the margins are thick now, and all you need is a solution that eventually should help the business to eventually grow more and add more revenue rather than uh, adding a cost to what they already are spending on, let's say, on the solutions. And so I think this concurrent licensing, I guess it's a unique point, unique selling point as well, Mark. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Is it, sorry, a unique point?
Is it a unique selling point for
Yeah,
InsightWorks as well?
it is, I think. I don't think anybody else is doing that type of licensing on the warehouse side. So, and most of our other tools, so that's the the devices. But if you wanted some of those other things that I mentioned, like shipping or fulfillment, things like that, those are typically licensed either by company or sometimes by location. And so we don't do really any named user licensing at all. So if you were to buy, for example, the order fulfillment worksheet, which is again, for some of the higher volume customers, is really something that everybody should have. That's by company. So you buy it once and you can have 50 people using it if you like. So yeah, we try to keep the licensing as simple as possible and make it easier on people. Nobody wants the hassle of having to manage assigning licenses and all sorts of things. You buy the license and you can use it wherever you want for whoever you want.
Makes
Talking about
sense.
saving money, I want to ask what kind of ROI do businesses usually see after this adoption?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a lot of ROI calculators out there. We don't publish one specifically, but it's better to actually use a third-party one anyway, so it's likely,
Mm-hmm.
less biased. But you quite often see, in North America, I'll speak specifically to that, but in North America, you're often seeing anywhere from $30 to $80 of cost for every missed shipment, and that doesn't even include some of the subjective costs, like you've made your customer unhappy and maybe they're not going to shop with you as much anymore, those sorts of things. So missed shipment is where I've shipped the wrong product. Well, again, as we've discussed, by physically verifying what you're shipping, those go away. So even a few percent of missed shipments costs a significant amount of money, and those go away. So it really is dependent on. So the ROI is really dependent on, the level of capability and the level of errors and things like that a customer is coming from. But if they've got a few percent of their shipments, even 1% of their shipments are going out incorrectly, and they're doing 100 shipments a day, that's only one shipment a day that's going out incorrectly. Well, over a week, that could be hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars, and you're losing customers. So I use that metric because it's easy to sort of understand and wrap your head around. And just that one little piece alone could pay for Warehouse Insight immediately, right? Or Dynamic Ship, depending on what you're doing.
That's superb, actually. So let's talk about future trends and advices, maybe. I want to say that with AI and IoT evolving so quickly, warehouse tech is actually advancing very rapidly, right? From predictive workflows, inventory to automated workflows, the next few years are going to be very promising and actually very exciting for the space. So, Mark, where do you see the warehouse management technology evolving over the next 5 years, specifically around AI? And what Insight Works is doing around that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Very interesting topic. I mean, it's very hard sometimes to predict how much AI is going to impact the business. Now, where we see things already starting to be adopted more is on the automation side, the physical automation side, robotics and things like that in the warehouse. I mean, that's been a trend for many years, but because of that, the costs are coming down. So you're seeing a lot more automation in the picking and things like that. So automated robots for doing picking or just delivering picked totes, like picked products to the shipping area, those sorts of things. So I see that, ASRS, the automated storage and retrieval systems, and the picking robots and things like that, really really starting to become more prevalent going forward because the costs are coming down. They've been around for years, and as such, the costs have come down. As far as AI goes, I think we'll see a lot more of that on the front end. So as orders come in, determining which warehouse is the most appropriate, or determining additional things like what else could be sold with it, those sorts of things. And then on the picking optimization, potentially, it's more of a machine learning type issue than what we would think of as generative AI. But on the improving the pick efficiencies, right, the pick paths, those sorts of things, I think we'll also see become more prevalent. As far as what we're doing, we've got a number of AI tools within the products now. They're more to assist, from a, deployment and analysis perspective today,
Mm-hmm.
which helps with efficiencies as well. But we have an AI application builder within Warehouse Insight, where again, if you want to tailor the software to match your processes, you can describe the application you want, and it'll build it for you. and other things on the maintenance side, helping with having an AI assistant to help you with equipment maintenance and those sorts of things. That's coming. So really, what it's going to do is, for the existing employees, it's just going to make their lives a little easier, I think, as we go forward.
Yep, definitely. That's pretty interesting. So, like, for companies just starting out on their digital warehouse journey, what advice would you give them?
Uh, the main advice I always give people is determine what your best practice physical processes should be. So if you had a magic wand and you could say, make this the most efficient possible, determine what that is, then find the software that's going to help you enable those processes, right? Because um, you don't want to find the software and then try and change all your processes to work with the software. You want to figure out what's going to work best in your environment. And it's a little
Absolutely.
different. And it's a little different in every environment, right?
Hmm.
Warehousing, a lot of it is very, very common and consistent processes. You take something off the shelf and you take it over to shipping and you ship it. But there's
Yep.
lots of little things in there that impact how well you work. Figure those out and find the software that's going to meet your specific requirements.
Superb. So, Nitesh, are you seeing any increased interest in these technologies across the industries, or is it still early days for so many businesses? What are your point of views on that?
Things have changed quite rapidly in last years, so Namita, especially around generative AI and Copilot. We are definitely living in
Mm-hmm.
this age of agent, and
Yeah.
as rightly said by Mark, in terms of adopting Gen AI, Copilot technologies, and agents on top of, let's say, Dynamics 365 or Insight Works is not a new normal. It's part of a day-to-day job now. I think every business would eventually adopt these technologies sooner than later, and the results are quite unique, and results are happening quite fast. And Mark, I think you mentioned about the picking side. So in terms of intelligent picking and demand forecasting, Mark. So do you foresee a lot of these improvements will happen in next, let's say, year or so? And if you could also give us some insights in terms of how Insight works, work with Microsoft together, because Microsoft is doing a lot of things around AI and Copilot, right? And they will eventually do in next 3, 5 years or more. So what Microsoft and InsightWorks are doing together, uh, and how eventually it can benefit customers to automate their warehouse through this AI first world that we are living in.
Absolutely, yeah. And you mentioned demand forecasting there. I mean, we have a free tool for demand forecasting as well. So we have a number of free applications, and one of them does happen to be demand forecasting. And to your point on how we work with Microsoft, that actually uses the Microsoft's Azure AI forecasting model that they've produced, and we hook into that and provide more advanced forecasting results than what you'd get out of standard Business Central. So that's a free tool. But yeah, so the demand forecasting, some of the optimizations that we can do within the facility. We also have AI in our configuration tool to assist people in defining bills of material for kitting and for production and things like that. And all of these tools that we're building here and leveraging some of the Microsoft capabilities, we're working with Microsoft to best determine how to get that to customers. Right. So one of the tricky things right now is, for Microsoft specifically, is how do they get, do they give it away for free? Do they have customers pay? Those sorts of things. So working with them on determining, sort of how we get that into Business Central in a way that it is easy for customers to understand, what their what their costs are going to be, and just as importantly, what their savings are going to be. And so we do work closely with Microsoft in a lot of areas around product development and what's coming out from them and from us. Uh, I think there was one other thing that you mentioned in there that you wanted to talk about, but
Yeah,
yeah.
around the intelligent picking and the
Oh yeah.
agents. Yeah,
Yeah, and the agents again, I see probably more on the front end where it's driving the demand, right? So
correct.
I think we'll see that potentially extend out into the warehouse a little bit. Depends again on sort of the volume of transactions. I mean, if you've got, picks being generated every few seconds and things like that,
Mm,
it's a little harder to take a bigger picture overview of what's going on holistically and try and determine it. Our order fulfillment worksheet does some of that. But yeah, the pick path optimization, that's a tool that's been around for years, and it's really more functional programming. But I think we're going to see some impact from AI on that because it can do a much better analysis of what's actually happened and how people actually work in the warehouse, and then sort of tailor the instructions to those people to work the way again they work the most efficiently. So AI
mhm.
is great for that analysis to determine, this is how we're working, this is how we could better work and provide those instructions back.
Sure. And talking about the reporting and the analytics side of Warehouse Insight, Mark. How easy it is for a business to have these reportings or analytics on a runtime basis. Now, if you could also talk to us a little bit about what are the standard reports that comes out of the solution, and how does that link with Business Central or let's say the likes of Power BI or Microsoft Fabric to really give those insights to the business owners and the stakeholders eventually. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, exactly. So we've got a few different tools in there to assist with that. So the first and somewhat most important, well, maybe not most important, but quite important, is everything that happens on the handheld device we actually log within Business Central. Well, you can enable and disable what you want to log. But for example, we can tell when people scanned items or when they scanned bins down to that level. And that can be useful because you can actually track if somebody scanned an incorrect item. So if I have a pick ticket for 100 items, I went out and I scanned the wrong item. That tells you that, had the solution not been there, they would have done a mispick. They were actually trying to grab the wrong product, but by
Mm,
scanning it,
mm,
they got an error message. So we can track those types of things. We track those real time within Business Central, and then you can use, as you said, Power BI and whatever reporting tool you want to get the insights out of those logs from the devices. In addition, sort of the standard Business Central and extensions with our graphical scheduler tool, which is another free tool, you can actually go in there and do analysis on the picks to find out, by employee even, typically how long it takes them to execute a pick, how long it takes them to execute an individual pick line, and you can use that to help with scheduling picks or assigning picks and things like that. So all of that information, all of that physical activity that's occurring within the warehouse, we can bring those as logs within Business Central that people can use for reporting.
makes sense, Mark. And you mentioned about companies that do have kitting process. So we have use case where especially companies in the orthopedics industry, they sell and ship a lot of surgical instruments to the hospitals and private surgeons. How does that part is managed by Insight Works? Because I know it's not a standalone or you can say standard feature in Business Central as well. So how does that side is managed by Insight Works? A lot of these companies they do have this challenge where uh, they let's say they ship this kit and some of those items in that kit gets consumed by the client and they return back to original source. So how does this entire process happens and get streamlined through your solution there?
Yeah, and I think that example you mentioned may have been, we ship out part of a kit and then we return part of it back, those sorts of things. Yeah, standard Business Central doesn't handle that type of scenario very well. And
Correct.
that's where the ability to really tailor the software to meet those unique requirements comes into play. So within Warehouse Insight, we've got the application designer. You can extend the application either with writing code within Business Central, but really within the application designer, we can address a lot of those issues really without writing any code whatsoever. So in those unique environments where it is a sort of unique situation and it's specific to their requirements, and they need a customization just for them, we can build that very easily. Now, on top of that, we also have something called the add-on catalog. And the add-on catalog is anytime we have run into a situation that, might be applicable to other customers, that will often go into the add-on catalog. And that's a set of extensions and enhancements to the software. It's like a mini app store within Business Central. People can
Mm.
extend the solution by just selecting one of those add-ons, clicking a button, and you've got it. So that's sort of for those unique requirements. The other side of the kitting is if anybody's got the requirement to have configurable kits, right? So they want to, they have a standard product, but they want to add various options and configurations to that standard product.
Correct.
We have our configurator tool that will do that as well. And all of these integrate together. So the configurator, you'll build up your custom configuration, and that'll go out to the warehouse, and they can pick the components. Then when you get to shipping, you can scan the individual components or just scan the finished good to get it shipped. So all of those various tools will work together to provide that solution.
That's I think pretty good solution because I think it's a major pain point for companies who are dealing in this industry, and if there's something can be solved through this, I think it will save and a lot of these businesses to especially streamline their operations. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this session has actually been very fruitful for our audiences, and thank you so much, Mark, for sharing your insights and for your time. This has actually been a very great conversation. And I would like to ask you one last question is for our listeners who would like to learn more about Warehouse Insight, where can they go? Do you have any sources of materials where they can study more about it?
Absolutely, yeah. So if probably the easiest way is if you go to wms4dynamics.com, that'll take you to our website.
Okay.
And on there, they can look at all the applications, every application, Warehouse Insight or WMS Express, which is the free version. There's a demo video there that goes into details about the product. We have a YouTube channel that has thousands of hours of video you can watch, and our knowledge base that gives more technical documentation. But yes, you can start at our website. Again, easiest is wms4dynamics.com. And from there, you can get to anything you need to see.
Yeah, that's superb. And I've already subscribed to your channel.
Excellent.
And I'm going to study more about it. And we look forward to having more such conversations with you in future, Mark.
Thank you very much. I
Yeah.
appreciate the invitation for today.
Definitely, it's most our pleasure. And thank you so much again for joining us, Mark. And thank you, Nitesh, as well. So, to our listeners, if you have any questions or want to explore more about Microsoft Dynamics solutions, feel free to reach out to us at Dynamic Square and definitely InsightWorks. Until next time, stay efficient and stay connected.
It's a good tagline. Thank you very much.
That's done.